Stop for a moment, not to think, not to analyze, but to feel. Right now, before a single thing in your life changes, before any circumstance shifts, before any proof appears, there is something you must understand. You are not waiting for life to give you anything. Life is waiting for you. Most people live as though fulfillment is somewhere ahead of them. They believe peace comes after success, love comes after worthiness, abundance comes after effort. And so they spend their lives reaching, striving, hoping, and waiting. Waiting for the moment when they can finally relax. Waiting for permission to feel complete. Waiting for the world to say, now you may be whole. But what if the order is reversed? What if the reason nothing changes is because you keep waiting for the evidence before you become the person who already has it? There is a quiet truth few are willing to face. The world you see is not leading you, it is following you. Every experience, every relationship, every limitation, every opportunity is responding not to what you want, but to who you are being. To act as if you have everything is not fantasy. It is not denial. It is not pretending. It is the most radical shift in consciousness a human being can make. It is the decision to live from fulfillment instead of chasing it. The moment you stop standing in need, life stops withholding. The moment you stop asking, reality starts answering. And the moment you feel complete within, the world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. This is not motivation. This is law. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Stay with me. What you're about to hear is not meant to inspire you. It is meant to wake you up. To act as if you already have everything is not a technique. It is not a trick of the mind. It is a return to your original position as the source. Long before circumstances formed, long before facts appeared, long before the world reflected anything back to you, there was consciousness, there was awareness, there was being. And that being is what you are. Most people have been trained to believe that life moves from the outside in. They believe the world must first change, and only then may they relax, feel safe, feel whole, feel complete. They believe fulfillment is a reward that arrives after effort, after struggle, after proof. But this belief is the very reason fulfillment feels distant. It places the cause outside of the self. The deeper truth is far simpler and far more powerful. Life moves from the inside out. The world you see is not creating you. You are creating the world you see. Every experience, every encounter, every condition is shaped by the state of consciousness you consistently occupy. To act as if you have everything is to recognize that creation is already finished in the unseen. Nothing you desire is being created in the future. It already exists as a state of being. The only question is whether you are living from that state or observing it from afar. When you act as if, you are not pretending. You are not denying circumstances. You are choosing which level of reality you accept as final. The physical world is slow. It is an echo. It lags behind consciousness, but consciousness is immediate. It responds the moment you shift identity. Most people live in reaction. They allow circumstances to dictate how they feel. When money appears, they feel secure. When it disappears, they feel anxious. When love arrives, they feel worthy. When it leaves, they feel empty. This is living as an effect, not a cause. To act as if you have everything is to reverse this pattern completely. It is to decide that your inner state no longer depends on external permission. You no longer wait for the world to validate your worth, your safety, or your abundance. You claim those states inwardly first. This is where true power begins. When you occupy the feeling of fulfillment, something subtle but profound occurs. Your nervous system relaxes. Your mind softens. Your emotional body stabilizes. You stop scanning the world for signs of lack. You stop interpreting delays as threats. You begin to move through life with quiet certainty. This certainty is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not argue. It simply knows. The person who acts as if they have everything does not rush. They do not chase. They do not cling. They move from a sense of internal sufficiency. And life responds to this sufficiency because life has no choice but to mirror the state you embody. Your inner state is not symbolic. It is not metaphorical. It is causal. Every sustained assumption becomes a command. Every accepted feeling becomes a pattern. Every identity you wear becomes a destiny. To understand this is to stop fighting the surface of life and begin working at the root. You do not change your life by fixing problems. You change your life by outgrowing the state that created them. When you act as if you have everything, you are not claiming that everything has appeared physically. You are claiming that everything is settled internally. You are resting in the end rather than striving toward it. And this resting is not passive, it is creative. The moment you stop needing something to happen in order to feel complete, the grip of lack dissolves. The moment you stop waiting for permission to feel fulfilled, the door opens. The moment you stop chasing, you become magnetic. This is the paradox most never understand. Desire fulfilled internally releases desire externally. Need repels, wholeness attracts. To act as if you have everything is to move through the world without the tension of becoming. You are no longer trying to prove yourself. You are no longer trying to arrive. You are no longer trying to fix yourself. You are simply being from a higher assumption. And assumptions harden into facts. The world is not responding to your words. It is not responding to your wishes. It is responding to your self-concept. It is responding to who you believe you are being right now. If you see yourself as someone who lacks, you will experience life through resistance. If you see yourself as someone who is supported, life will rearrange to confirm it. If you see yourself as chosen, valued, and complete, the world will begin to treat you accordingly. This is not mysticism, it is alignment. To act as if you have everything is to step out of the identity of the seeker and into the identity of the source. The seeker waits, the source allows, and allowance is power. One of the greatest misunderstandings about acting as if is the belief that it requires physical behavior. People assume they must act confident outwardly, speak differently, dress differently, or force themselves into artificial habits. But this misses the essence completely. Acting as if is an internal movement, not an external performance. It begins in the quiet moments when no one is watching. It begins in the way you speak to yourself. It begins in the feeling you return to when the mind wanders. It begins in the emotional tone you accept as normal. When you sit alone and imagine the feeling of already having, you're acting as if. When you let your body soften into peace without justification, you are acting as if. When you choose calm over panic, trust over fear, sufficiency over lack, you are acting as if. The outer actions will follow naturally, but they are never the cause. Feeling is the language of creation. The world does not respond to effort. It responds to emotional conviction. What you feel consistently, you live. Eventually, you cannot feel desperate and experience abundance. You cannot feel rejected and experience connection. You cannot feel unworthy and experience recognition. The feeling always comes first. This is why forcing positivity fails. Forced thoughts without embodied feeling have no power. But when the body accepts a state, when the nervous system relaxes into an assumption, when the mind stops arguing, reality begins to shift. To act as if you have everything is to live as though the outcome is inevitable, not because you hope it will be, but because it already feels true internally. This inner certainty changes how you respond to contrast. Problems no longer feel like threats. Delays no longer feel like punishment. Uncertainty no longer feels dangerous. Everything becomes neutral, temporary, adjustable. You stop collapsing emotionally when things don't go your way. You stop assigning meaning to setbacks. You stop personalizing circumstances. You understand that life is reorganizing. This understanding brings peace. When you act as if you have everything, you no longer react to life from fear. You respond from clarity. And responses shape outcomes in ways reaction never can. You also begin to notice that your desires change. Some desires fall away because they were rooted in insecurity. Others deepen because they are aligned with your true nature. You no longer want from emptiness, you want from expression. This is a higher form of desire. From this state, you stop asking, how will it happen? The how becomes irrelevant. The mind's need to control dissolves. You trust the intelligence that moves stars, seasons, and cells. You trust the unseen orchestration of events. Trust is not blind belief, it is recognition. You recognize that life has always responded to your state, even when you were unaware of it. You see the patterns clearly now. You see how fear created fear, how confidence created opportunity, how assumptions shaped experience. And with this recognition comes responsibility. You realize that nothing outside of you needs to change first. You are free to choose the state now, not someday. Not when conditions improve, now. When doubt arises, you do not fight it. Fighting gives it power. You simply return to the feeling of having. You return to the state you have chosen again and again. This returning is the practice. Persistence is not forcing intensity. It is gentle consistency. It is choosing the same inner posture repeatedly until it becomes natural. And one day you notice something remarkable. You no longer have to try. The feeling sustains itself. Fulfillment becomes your baseline. Calm becomes your default. Trust becomes automatic. At this point, acting as if disappears. You are no longer acting, you are being, and being is creation. As this state stabilizes, life begins to reflect it in subtle ways. Not all at once, not dramatically, but consistently. Opportunities arise without effort. Conversations flow more easily. Solutions appear unexpectedly. You find yourself in the right place at the right time. These are not rewards, they are reflections. The outer world is catching up. You may still experience challenges, but they no longer define you. They pass through you without imprint. You do not build identity around struggle anymore. You do not anchor yourself in past limitations. You live forward from fulfillment. The most profound shift happens internally. You stop measuring yourself against outcomes. You stop using results to determine your worth. You stop outsourcing your sense of value. You are whole before the manifestation. And this wholeness is what allows manifestation to occur. When you act as if you have everything, you no longer grasp, you no longer cling, you no longer fear loss. You trust the flow of life because you trust yourself. You understand that nothing real can be taken from you. You understand that what is aligned will remain. You understand that life is not random. It is responsive. This understanding creates freedom. You move through the world lightly. You make decisions from clarity rather than urgency. You speak from confidence rather than insecurity. You listen more deeply. You react less. You create space wherever you go. People feel this. They respond to it. They mirror it. Not because you demand it, but because your state invites it. This is how influence works. This is how leadership works. This is how attraction works. The person who has everything inwardly does not need to convince anyone. Their presence speaks, their calm communicates, their certainty stabilizes, and over time, the life you once imagined becomes ordinary, not because it lost its value, but because it became natural. It became your norm. This is the final truth of acting as if. You were never meant to chase fulfillment. You were meant to assume it. You were never meant to earn worthiness. You were meant to remember it. You were never meant to become powerful. You were meant to Awaken to the power you already are. Act as if you have everything, not because the world says so, but because consciousness does. And consciousness is the only reality that creates.